I guess what I've noticed about Mel in the last little bit is she's gone from being someone who was not so self-assured and had a whole bunch of self-doubt about not being good enough. Imposter syndrome was front and centre. And she's worked her little tushy off to get to where she is. So, I'm getting a bit emotional now. Much gratitude to you, Mel, for coming. Oh, she's crying already.
I've got you.
Yes, I really admire you, Mel. I think what you do so beautifully is really demonstrate the importance of the lived experience, and the authenticity that comes with that is very cool. So, sorry that you're already crying before you're up here. But yes, please give Mel a big warm welcome for our Keynote speaker. She'll let that to me.
Thank you for that introduction. I just want to share for somebody that's spent a lot of their life in horse world as a shutdown horse, to hear that stuff, and I'm very aware all of a sudden of what my body's doing. And it only sort of came about the last 20 minutes or so, and I was like, oh shit, I can really feel stuff now. So, a big out breath. I might just wipe this one tear that wants to do something. I guess to start off is that I like to do things the hard way or backwards. I've never been about following the rules and the instructions that have been given to me in life to do it how I'm told to do it. So as I share my story, you'll start to understand how I've done it the different way, I guess. So today I'm talking about coming into this work as someone with lived experience of mental health challenges, what that's been like facing the stigma and the pressure that I had to do it differently or do it how people said I should do it, the challenges that I faced, but also the power of showing up authentically and how that works with my clients that I work with every single day. And I'm shaking like a leaf. Why am I here today? As Nadine said, it's a bit of a perspective through many lenses. I'm a practitioner. I run what I would say is a pretty successful business these days. I've been a client of this work. I'm a woman and I'm a survivor of many things. I won't go too much into that stuff. This is not a clinical case study, it's a human story. So it's my story, but I get to speak for all the people I work with every single day that this is also their story as well. My intention today is to join us in connection through our work and not give you a prescription of that you're doing it wrong or you need to do it differently. This is just my perspective of how I show up every day doing this work. I invite everyone just to take a moment, and if you've got a piece of paper, I'm going to give you some words, and I invite you to write, when I share these 3 words, I invite you to write whatever comes up for you. There's no judgment, there's no expectation, and please just be really honest with it. And I'll do my best to keep my shit together. And I'm noticing my hands are all shaking as well. So I'm going to give you these 3 words, and I just invite you to take a moment, write whatever you feel, you notice, what comes to your mind. I can see people writing quite feverishly. You might notice in the background there's a bit of a puzzle. Sometimes borderline personality feels like a puzzle. I'm just wondering, I'd like to hear from some people about what you may have written or what your experience has been with borderline personality. If anyone wants to pop their hands up and throw some words out, I'd be really grateful to hear those things.
What came up for me was pain, isolation, survival and freedom.
Yeah, pain, isolation, survival and freedom. Anyone else?
I came up with the liminal space.
Ah, the liminal space. I've been learning about that stuff. Yeah.
I have complex trauma, adaptation, stigma, and often rejection.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing. Anyone up the back got anything?
Lack of consistency.
Lack of consistency? Yep.
Inconsistent relationships.
Yeah.
In need of love.
Sorry?
In need of love.
In need of love, yeah. Those 3 words are 3 words that I have been given over the years, with a lot of other words, but they're the ones that have stuck out for a very long time for me. And with those words came a lot of judgment, a lot of you'll never do anything, you'll never achieve anything, you just need to accept that you have this thing over here, that you'll never work, you'll never study, you just have to take medication and kind of curl up. And that was what the system did to me. It basically broke a person that was already very broken. So that was hard words to have given to me. But now those 3 words are what empower me to do the work that I do. And as someone living, and I still live with borderline personality, it hasn't gone away. I've just learnt to manage it a lot better through this work. So like I said, these words have shaped me a lot. With those words came a lot of very big behaviour, very aggressive behaviour. I was quite violent. It's not something that I like to, go, oh, I was really violent and aggressive. But in some of my darkest moments, I did a lot of damage to people and to physical things such as cars and stuff. So I was quite destructive, and in that process I also was very destructive to relationships around me, and it didn't matter how hard people tried, I was very good at keeping them a very, very big distance away from me, because that's what I thought kept me safe, and also kept those people around me very safe, but turns out that that wasn't right at all. And I spent a lot of my life alone, which was very hard, and now hearing people say things about me, like what I just heard Nadine, I still struggle to understand it, but I'm getting better at dealing with it. So this is something, I've worked as a lived experience worker in the mental health system for a very long time, and I found this little diagram here that talks about the medical model, and what my experience is what was wrong with me. There was something wrong with me. That everything was diagnosed based on my symptoms of my behaviour, and that I was medication resistant, I wouldn't do the things that I was told to do, that I would tend to fire back. That activity that we did yesterday, I was like, I spent a lot of time doing this, yeah, I'm going to lean in and I'm going to take you all down. Sometimes that still pops up, but I learned to manage it a little bit. My treatment was based on my diagnosis and what worked for others, so nobody actually wanted to hear what my story was and to understand where I was actually coming from. And it was like, if you be a good girl and take your medication, everything will be okay. Or do this group, or do this thing. And the problem was I didn't actually associate with other borderline people. I was like, I'm not like them. I was like next level those people, as I found out over time. And there was very much this thing of continue your treatment until your symptoms are gone and you return to normal. And normal might only be there for a week or 2 before this stuff came back to bite me on the backside again. Then I found the recovery model through the work that I do and through my Equine assisted learning program, and it became this really strength-based approach of like, what would you like to achieve? And back then I was like, I don't know, I'm lucky to get through a day. If I haven't hurt myself or hurt someone else, I've done really well. And it was like, what would you like your life to look like? It was the same thing. I was like, I don't know, like, can my life look any different? Because I've been told for so many years that it wouldn't be different. And this thing about what challenges are you experiencing. So these people that were peer workers were actually sitting with people and starting to understand what their story was. And having worked in the clinical system, in the acute ward, in Secure, in the mobile rehab team, and also with the young people, I started to see how this model was not happening. And as a peer worker, I started to really focus on how can I make this stuff show up in a world of judgment and labels and things, which I still see a lot of. And then I was like, what's preventing you from achieving the life you want to live? The system was what was stopping me from that. Because, once again, I'd been told, well, this is how it is and you just need to deal with it. And nobody ever went, oh, what are you actually really good at? No one said to me, what things that you could do to support yourself. So over, the last couple of years through doing this training, I've learned some really amazing skills that can support myself. And I was sitting up here with my eyes closed and just breathing through the experience that I was having. There was part of me that wished I was still that shut down horse and I could just disappear, but I knew I had to sit with those feelings. And this has actually been provided to me by Emma Smith. She's actually my old boss when I was working in Queensland Health. And there's a lot of this stuff with this medical model that it's quite a deficit approach. And I'm not bagging anyone else out that's in the medical model by any stretch, but this is absolutely my experience and so many people I work with every day. And what I notice is it creates this real fear and this real stigma, and there's often those discussions about, but we're trauma-informed and we do all of these things, but the conversations I would see were not that. I've seen many people had hands-on experiences because someone was not listening to them, and they were giving very clear indication, please just give me some space, and then it would turn into an escalation, and it would turn into someone getting crash-tackled onto the ground, and that was something I saw a lot as a peer worker. And I didn't think that that was acceptable. Luckily, my role meant that I was allowed to challenge that and go, we need to do better and we need to do differently. Kind of makes me think of Kim with the horses, we've got to do things a little bit differently. There's lots of this compliance. You just need to take your medication. If you don't take your medication, we're going to jam it in you anyway, whether you like it or not. So my thing is, how do we become better or do things differently if that's how I'm treated in the system? This recovery model is something that I'm very passionate about, and I used to train people in this model of this strength-based stuff, like sitting down and actually asking people, like, what makes you tick? What's the thing, what's got you here and what's your experience right now? And starting to educate the people that are struggling with these symptoms every day, but also the teams that are there to support them, and starting to give them some hope. So I guess for me now, as someone with this living experience, is that I get to provide hope for other people that things can change. And it doesn't matter if I'm now 51 and things are starting to change, and I say to people, there's this time where it will change for you, but it's just finding that one person that can support you, and then you'll get another person, and then another person, and another person. So that's been my experience just recently, is finding my own herd. Because I remember doing my training and I remember breaking down going, but I don't have a herd. Like I didn't, I had my herd of horses, but I didn't have anyone in my physical human herd. And that was like really quite a big, oh fuck for me. And I just went, oh shit, I don't actually have a herd. And everyone's like, but you do. And I'm like, not anyone I can actually absolutely trust. So I get to be a role model for so many people these days. And I try to do my absolute best to be very person-centred, and I make sure that I'm there to build connection with someone. I don't give two flying craps about what your diagnosis is, where you came from. You are still a human being, and that's what I care about the most. I get to promote engagement with so many people. The things I start to hear about myself now, I'm like, are you sure you're talking about the same person that I know or that other people know? I work with so many multidisciplinary teams, and they say to me, you bring such a different lens to this work because you see things that we as clinicians have missed that you can bring to our attention. So it's pretty cool that I get to do that now. I just wanted to put this here. It says the therapeutic relationship is the intervention, real contact, presence, here and now, not fixing, because I'm not broken, there's nothing wrong with me. I just show up a little bit differently in life, but being with, and self-disclosure as a bridge, not a spotlight. So a big part of my work And when the girls asked me to talk about self-disclosure, I was like, ooh, that's like a prickly subject, isn't it? I was like, ooh, do I really want to go down that pathway? But as somebody working as a lived experience person, my job and what I was paid to do was to talk about my lived experience. And obviously I'm not going to sit there and go, oh, my trauma is blah, 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 blah. But it's about disclosing parts of me to build connection with somebody else to go, oh, you actually get it and you really understand it. So that's a big part of my work that I do now, is I'm very open, and I say to people, if you have any questions about my journey and how I got here, please ask me. Don't ever feel like that is not okay, because I want them to go, oh, I can do something different too. Because I would say probably 99% of my clients are people that have had bad experiences or traumatic experiences through the clinical model. The turning point. This is my horse Pippin. I lost him to cancer. I think I'd had him for 1.5 years when I lost him to cancer. My business name is called Pinmanto, Equine Encounters, and everyone's a bit like, oh, where'd you get that name from? So the PYN in Pinmanto is in honour of Pippin. The MAN is for my big horse that's on my shirt is Comanche, and TO is for Toa, who is no longer Toa, because he decided to talk to an animal communicator and tell me that his name was not Toa, it's Oracle. So he liked to throw a bit of a spanner in the works. And it was interesting on that note is that Oracle said to the lady, I'm not Toa, and Toa means brave warrior, so I thought, oh, that's a pretty cool name. And he decided Oracle because he's a storyteller and he helps people, is what he told the lady. So for me that was quite like, oh, okay. And I did actually have someone in the paddock do an oracle card reading, and he came over and was picking cards. So just all of these things dropped in. I was like, wow, that's really cool. So a bit of backstory, I didn't grow up with horses. I got into horses 7 years ago at a point in my life where I had had some suicide attempts, self-harm, suicidal ideation, and I really struggled to be in the world. And I was sharing house with some people, and they're like, oh, we've got this Arab down in the paddock, would you like to hang out with him? I'm like, yeah, sure. What do I know about horses, let alone an Arab? He taught me a lot about relationships that nobody could ever teach me about. So he and I spent a lot of time at big distances, because I was at the point in my life where I'm like, fuck you, if you're not coming near me, I'm not coming to you either. So we spent a lot of time in opposite ends of the paddock, and that was a good 6 months of our relationship, I think, was just like, I'm not doing that. And he had the same energy, which was quite funny as I look back now. So he taught me stuff that no therapy, no clinician, nobody could teach me, and I started to learn how to show up in the world differently. I might turn up to the paddock with the shits and, you know, I'm tapped out today, and I might be on my phone, and he would come over and flip my hat off of my head. He would push his nose on my phone, make the pages change. I'd get frustrated with him, and then I was like, oh, he's just trying to say, like, be present with me, Mum, I'm here for you. You've just got to sit with me, sort of thing. So I spent hours and hours. I don't ride a lot, never did, you know, because I was more scared of it than anything else. And I just had this thing of like, oh, I can just sit here and he takes all my troubles away. Like, I didn't have to talk to him. He didn't judge me if I came with the shits with the world, or I was stomping around, or I might be throwing things in the paddock, because I like to throw shit. So we got to spend a lot of time just hanging out together, which for me felt safe. And I'd never felt that safe with anybody else in my life, so I now have this more than human experience where I get to just be with this horse. Like I said, sadly I lost him to cancer. Everyone's like, oh look, he's always smiling, and unfortunately that was part of his cancer being in his face, but that was just a reminder of me that he made me extremely happy, and we had some amazing journeys together. People used to say to me like, oh, I wish my horse was like yours and followed you around like a puppy dog. I was like, well, you just got to sit and hang out with them, and you'll be surprised what they teach you about them, but also yourself. And here we go, the more than human relationship. So this is something I've been learning a lot about over the last sort of year or so, more so than anything, is this being with other than human. For me, unfortunately, humans weren't a great experience for me for a big part of my life. But being out in nature, hugging a tree, leaning on a tree, a lot of people saw me sitting on a rock, leaning on a tree yesterday. That's just my standard way of being. I know Nadine put mats down and she's like, but you like sitting on the ground. I'm like, yes, I do. So that for me has become a really important thing. If I'm feeling dysregulated and stressed out, I'll just go and sit with the more than human experience. The best thing about Pippin is that he never tried to fix me, and he met me where I was, which also taught me how to meet him where he was. If he was having a shit day, I didn't push him to do anything other than just be with me. And if it meant that we were 10 metres apart, I was okay with that. So that taught me a lot about my relationship stuff. I started to learn to co-regulate with horses. Who knew that that was a thing? I sure as heck didn't. And just noticing, you know, that out-breath, or just being really present to like, what is it that he needs right now? And I wasn't focusing on what I needed, but in return I was getting exactly what I needed. And knowing that the field includes the land, the animals, the space that shapes all of us. I think my partner thinks I've gone a bit kooky. I do wonder if he's like, oh, there's something going on with her, because I do spend a lot of time just sitting and being, and I do wonder if people at the property are like, what does she do up there? Because she just seems to be sitting in the dirt a lot. But, you know, that's what makes me happy, and I just go, I don't really care. I started to learn this thing about the power of our relationships, or for me, relationships that started to become trustworthy and safe and kind and connected. And I found this quote that was really quite powerful to me. Healing begins to occur when the client feels met, not when we fix, but when we stay with. It is the quality of contact that allows the possibility of change. Just sort of sit with that for a second. And for so many years I wasn't met where I needed to be. But now I definitely feel very met, and to see so many people here, I'm like, oh, I'm talking in front of a lot of people and I haven't sworn too much yet. You just don't know what's coming. I was given permission, so if I offend anyone, I'm really sorry. Not. What I needed to hear, but I didn't. This one's like a something that's kind of popped up for me recently, because a lot of my clients have started saying to me, Mel, you're so inspiring, and you've come from nothing and you've achieved all of these things, and I'm like, ooh, that feels really unfamiliar and really quite weird for me. And I started to like reflect on that, going, oh, what is that about? And what I know about myself is that I've spent 49 years probably hearing how crap I was at everything and that I wouldn't achieve stuff. And that shit's really hard to get rid of when you've heard it your whole life. Even unfortunately now I still hear people saying that I don't deserve that, or you're so lucky. I'm like, this has got nothing to do with fucking luck. It's a lot of hard work, you know. And what I wanted to hear from people is that you're kind and you can do this, you're amazing, we've got you, you know, all of these things that I always wanted to hear. But now I hear them, I'm like, ooh, no, I don't like that. But I'm starting to understand the power of that, and I like to offer that to my clients, is when they've done something that's really unfamiliar for them, like I celebrate it, like, oh fuck, and it's like, yes, you've done really well. And that's probably been the hardest thing in life for me, is to go, how do I come from this place of, I was so shit, you know, and it still pops around in there, and it's that tall poppy syndrome. What I've noticed is the more I grow, there seems to be more weed cutters out there that kind of want to take that down a little bit. So I've become really good at blocking and deleting people. It's like, you are not in my circus, that's okay. I don't need you, and I don't care. And unfortunately, one of those was my mother. Just recently she said to me, all you want is praise. And I just went, yep, that's what my little girl has always needed, was that praise. And I didn't get that, and I'm like, and if you don't understand that as my mother, well, sorry about that, but you're not in my circle anymore, after fighting for that for so many years. So I was like, that's okay, I can't change her, but I can show up how I need to for myself and for other people as well. Why I share my story. This is the first time I've ever been a keynote speaker. I did get asked to speak at a domestic violence workshop a couple of years ago, and that was terrifying. Luckily it was on a panel, so I could just sort of hide there and go, I'm just going to be here and answer a question and get the flip out of here. But what I know about myself is I've become a voice for so many other people that experience what I've experienced in the world or in the system or whatever you want to call it. So now I get to share my story because I want to reduce the shame and the stigma that comes with having quite a severe mental health issue. And I want people to be able to speak about it and go, that's what I have, or I have something else, and that they can be in a safe place where they can actually own their label that's been given to them. I say to people, look, I still have the label, I don't really identify with it, but it does explain how I show up in the world sometimes, and it can give me a little bit of self-compassion, and the people that know me, it can also give them some understanding of what I need, because sometimes I don't actually know, like when I'm in meltdown mode or something's going on, I don't know what I need, so I need the people around me to be able to step in and go, here you go, this is what you need right now. I get to build so much connection with people. You know, I've been asked to step into a suicide prevention space to speak about my experience with self-harm, suicide ideation, and also some attempts. So it's that thing of getting the word out that you can talk about this, because there's such a stigma and this thing of like, don't talk about it. You know, over the years I'd apply for a job and it'd be like, don't tell anyone that you've got mental health problems. And I'm like, it's gonna come out at some point. I can only hide it for about 3 months and then it would come out, and then I'd lose my job again. And then I'd have to spend some time getting well, which I try to make that happen in 2 weeks and be like, I'm all okay, go get another job, and then be like, don't tell anyone, oh, it's coming. And talking about that, I think the word is I've had more starts than fallout. I've tried every job that there is. I've been a hairdresser, I've worked in the mines, I've been a truck driver, you name it, I've probably done it. Being an Equine assisted learning practitioner, and I only had this epiphany a few days ago. This is the longest job I've ever had. My boss is a bitch, but you know, she doesn't give me days off very often. She's a shit payer. But now I get to build connection with people, which feels really special and important, and I'm getting asked more and more, oh, can you speak at something, or can you give us some insight or some understanding? I've also been asked to be on a lived experience action group, which is where we meet together to talk about, from our lived experience perspective, how the system screwed me over, and how we can make changes for the system to be a little bit different, so that's pretty special. I get to offer hope and possibility for so many other people by speaking about my own story and how it's impacted my life. Now I get to share that with other people, and I've got a gentleman that came to me, he'd been in prison for a while, and he was like, there was a door of a car that banged and he just about shot out of his skin, and he struggled for a long time with judgment and stuff, and all of a sudden he's kind of gone, I feel really safe here, and he started sharing his story of why he went to prison and the things that had happened for him. And now, over working together, I think we've been working together for a year, and he's now talking about becoming a lived experience worker and sharing his story out in the world. So for me, that's like, I got to offer that opportunity for him to do something that uses his story for good for other people. I get to empower other people to speak. I say, it's fucking terrifying. However, it will be really rewarding at the end of all of that as well. And my body feels much better now, which is great. So thank you for staying with me. The ripple effect. It was funny because I go home and I'm like, oh, I just work with one person, you know, like I think I see about 14 clients a week. And last year I had a drug and alcohol centre approach me to work with their clients, and I was like, what the fuck do I know about that shit? So I was a bit like, oh, okay, I'll give it a go, because I just give everything a go. Don't think about it, just like, yeah, sure, okay. Same as when the ladies asked me to do this, I'm like, yeah, sure, okay. And they're like, do you want to think about it? No, because if I think about it, I won't do it. So I started to have this thing of like, oh, I can actually impact other people. But in my head, I was like, oh, I'm just impacting the person that I work with, like I'm making change and giving them belief in themselves. But all of a sudden, I was like, oh, this actually impacts them and their family and their workplace and all the other places that they attend and the people that are at the rehab centre. It impacts all the people in the rehab centre, it impacts the staff, then it impacts their families. So I just had this like, holy shit, this is bigger than what I thought it is. I was like, oh, I'm just Mel in Townsville doing this thing that's, you know, important but not that important. And that was part of my story. If I don't tell anyone about this and it doesn't happen, well, no one cares. So I learned that that was my story that I told myself, and I was like, oh, actually, no, I'm going to tell people all about this now. What's changed for me? A whole lot. A lot. Last year I was honoured to be nominated for a Townsville Chamber of Commerce Business Award in Social Responsibility. And I was like, oh fuck, that sounds like a big deal. It was terrifying. And I had to do this big application, and at that point I had people saying, you don't deserve to be there. How much did you pay to get that nomination? Did you pay the judges to get into that? So that was my story coming back up. Oh fuck, I'm not good enough. Here's the imposter thing, I don't deserve this. One of the other finalists was my old employer in the mental health system that I worked for. They have 1,000 staff, and I was like, I'm just Mel, I don't deserve that. I went on to win that. And I went, and then, just before I came here, I got an email saying, you've been nominated for the Townsville Chamber of Commerce Business Awards again, for the same category, but also for micro business. So we have that to wait for. That's in August, so I may need to buy another dress. I wonder if I can wear my Crocs this year. I was also invited to speak here today, which is such an honour, and it's quite unfamiliar and weird, like, because what I found is sometimes speaking to horsey people about the work you do, they're like, oh yeah, I know horses, I don't need to know about your stuff. I'm like, maybe you do. Last year I went and studied a graduate certificate in Gestalt therapy. Who would have thought that I could do that when I was told I would never achieve anything? Mind you, to get that graduate certificate in Gestalt therapy, I had previously done no academic study, not a thing. So that's Mel doing things the backwards way and going, what's the hardest way that I can get into this? That's the way. In my head I was like, if I get through this, like I've survived and I've done it. And I was like, if I pass, I'm okay with a pass. I kind of went on, and not big noting my bum, but I will. I got high distinctions and a distinction for the year. So it goes to show, even though you've been told you can't, you can. I'm now undertaking my master's, so I'm in my second year. There are moments where I feel like giving up because I go, what was I thinking doing a master's with no previous study experience? There's some words in there like furthermore and moreover that don't make any sense. Why can't I start it with fuck this shit? But no, I've learned about furthermore, moreover, some weird words. And I've learned to write it in Bogan Mel language first, and then I go to my tutor and go, can we refine this into something that doesn't have my words in there? And once again, I still struggle with that self-belief that I can do this. I put in a 3,000 word research paper and I was like, if I get 55%, I've done really well. And then they sent me my results and I was like, oh, I feel like I'm going to throw up, I can't open this. And everyone's like, just open it. And this is that thing of like, I still struggle with self-belief. I opened it and it said high distinction. I'm like, that can't fucking be mine. So I had to open the paper and go and read it to make sure it was actually my paper. And then I sort of still sat there going, really, did I get it high? How? So it shows me I can do hard things, which reminds me of a time when I was with Jessie and she got me to do an ice bath and I drew it and she goes, you can do hard things. So So just having someone like her in my life that believes in me is pretty cool. I have a successful business, well, apparently, because I won an award, so that means something. I don't advertise, I don't put it out to the world, because my story is if no one knows, that's why it's so shit. But I'm constantly booked out. I have people trying to get in, their friend of the friend told them about what I do. I have businesses calling me now going, we really want our people, and there was the thing of, you don't have a piece of paper, I'm not a counsellor, I'm not in anything, I float in this liminal space of like, where do I fit? But all of a sudden that not having a piece of paper has become really valuable in the world of equine assisted learning. It's been quite a slog to prove and validate why I should be doing this work and why it's important and how it can impact other people. But now that people know that I don't have a piece of paper, they're like, ooh, you're cool, because we don't have to worry about saying something that you might write down, you know. So I'd like to provide that safety and that trust of, you can come and talk to me about your deep, dark secrets, and I don't care, and my horses don't care. Like I said, I work with this group program, so St Vincent de Paul come to me every single week. I work with their participants for 2 hours every week. And I used to say the story of, oh, I don't know anything about drug and alcohol addiction. And one day someone said, but you've got an addiction to horses. And I was like, yeah, cool. But then what I realised is that drug and alcohol addiction is in my family, and I grew up in quite an unstable family environment. And now I look back and I'm like, my dad was an alcoholic. But both of my brothers have struggled with drug addiction at some point in their life. And I was always like, it doesn't impact me. But what I learned is I actually got to go, no, I don't want anything to do with that. So it's actually taught me, working with these people, how to work with my family. I still keep them at that distance, but it helps me understand why they show up in the world like they do, just as I show up a little bit differently. So it's been really helpful to work with those people, and it sent me on a bit of a bum steer and, you know, that rabbit warren that you go down of how can I best support these people. And I've heard them say to me, oh, from the moment I got here I felt so safe with you. You never judged me about my drug addiction, you never judged me about my alcohol addiction or whatever it might be. And I say to these people, and I mean it with every part of my heart, is that they've changed my life as much as I might change their life. Sadly, I actually lost one of my clients that I worked with for 6 months through that rehab facility. And he will get on it at my paddock. I had a vision of a plaque and I was like, oh, I think that needs to go under the big tree near the dam, and I was on his funeral via Zoom, and his children and I think it was his wife said, there'll always be a seat at the table for you here. And I went, that's what's going on the plaque. So we're in the process of honouring him by having that plaque at the paddock. And that's how much my clients mean to me. Like, they're not just people that come to see me, they become part of my herd and my family. And I've kind of gone from surviving to thriving. I feel like sometimes I'm still surviving and clawing my way through, but you know, every day I get a little bit stronger, and now I can handle the setbacks a lot easier than I could years ago. You know, if something goes a bit awry, I'm kind of like, yeah, whatever, it'll be fine. And that seems to work best for me. I don't plan too much, I just kind of fly by the seat of my pants. I guess for me it's this thing about a gentle reminder from a client perspective, because I'm a client. And I think, how much time have I got?
Oh, sorry, I'm just a bit
Oh.
involved in that. Sorry. No, I think you will. Yeah, we've got about 5 minutes.
Okay, cool.
Yanking, because they'll Q&A.
Because I've got a little bit of a story I'd like to share that is really relevant to this. I went and did my training with the EPI, I think it's nearly 3 years ago since I finished my training. And I remember sitting there lots of the time, and I got asked, like, would you like to work around that? I was like, oh, something's stuck in my throat and I just don't know what it is. And this was part of that turning point. And they said, do you mind doing a projection piece? And I was like, yeah, sure, I don't know what the fuck that is, but righto. Went out and it was like, pick a horse that you want to work with. So I picked this beautiful horse, his name was Dakota, and I'll never forget this experience. And they were like, okay, just pop some stuff down on the ground that looks like stuck. And I was like, sure. And I say to people, it wasn't something I ever thought about and went, okay, stuck looks like, oh, here's my map and I'm going to have it all ready. It was just this thing that I put some shit on the ground. There was 2 poles. I remember it as clearly as anything because this was very powerful for me. 2 poles on the ground. There was a whole bunch of shit in the front, 3 steps. And Heather says to me, tell me about your stuck. And I'm like, oh, well, you got to follow a pathway because that's what everyone tells you. You got to follow the steps to get to the end. She goes, what about this stuff? And I said, oh, well, you can't fucking get in there, can you? Like everyone says I've got to follow this path, but I can't. It's impossible for me. And she said to me these words, is there anything you want to change about it? I just looked at her and went, no. And she said, why not? And this thing dropped in my head and it said, because you don't have to follow the path. You can go around it and you're still going to get to the same point. And for me, that was that like, holy shit, I don't have to follow the path. And clearly how I've done all of the things in my life, I haven't followed the path, I've just got there however I've got there. And then she says to me, would you like to go and grab Dakota? And I'm like, yeah, sure. I know horses. Go over to this horse, went to move him. And when I tell you he was stuck, I mean, he would not move. It did not matter which way I tried to drag him to come and meet with my stuck, he would not. I tried pulling him forwards, I tried redirecting him, stepping this way, going the other side, and I completely fell apart. And I went, because of my stuck, now I've impacted him. And I had that thing of like, now I've impacted so many people in my world because of my shit. What I learned from him then was my relationship stuff. And this all happened in 1 week. And so I went, well, fine, fuck you, you don't want to hang out with me. And so over the week he was off doing his own thing, and then I was over there going, oh, please Dakota, be my friend, I love you, come on. And and I was in his space like trying to get his validation and support. And he was like, no lady, you're out, I'm done with you. Which then turned into the other thing of my relationship, well fine, you don't want to be my friend, I've got the other friends over here. And he didn't care. He was like, sure, go hang out with them friends, but those friends weren't as cool for me as what Dakota was. At the end of the week, within about half an hour of us finishing for the week, I was standing in the paddock on my own and everyone else was off somewhere else. And Dakota walked over to me and put his head in my chest. I fell apart again. So in that little experience with him over that week, I had learned so many things about how I show up in the world, how I do relationships, and that me grovelling for your love and attention isn't actually going to work. And that's something that I get to see so many times in my paddock, because I have a sensitive horse that's very much the same as Dakota in that sense. So from my client perspective, I didn't need someone to fix me. Like I said, there was nothing actually wrong with me. There's nothing wrong with me now. I'm just a little bit quirky and a bit weird, and that's okay. But I needed someone to see me. So what I invite you to think of is like when you're working with your clients, what do they need? Like, do they just need some connection and to be seen and to be heard and to be understood? Don't think of their label and try to fix them. Just be there with them, because that's what I need. And even today I still need, just be with me. I needed safety, I needed kindness and space to just be. I've learnt that I'm a little bit different to everybody else. I like to collect bones and feathers and things, and so does my new dog, which is really cool. She's just like me. But I needed that kindness and space to just be, because I couldn't be myself with everyone trying to fix me and tell me all of these things. I actually needed to just sit and be with somebody or something that understood that, because I couldn't change. I couldn't do anything differently, and I felt really smothered, and it's like, oh, but you need to do this, and if you could just do it that way and do these things. My practice aims to offer clients connection, kindness and trust, and on the back of my shirt is exactly what I have. So it's about connection. Before anything else, I don't care if it takes me 3 months to build connection, it doesn't. But if it takes me that long, I don't care about anything else until that person feels safe, supported and connected with me, my space and my herd. My journey started with a belief from others about me, and now I get to offer that to others. It was pretty powerful, and I wrote those words down. I was like, yeah, and I have people that believe in me now. Some of them I pay for them to believe in me, but they still believe in me. and I wouldn't have it any other way. If it means that I have to pay for those people to support me, to help me find other people that believe in me. Yeah, that feels pretty important that I get to offer that belief to someone else that doesn't believe in themselves. So that's me.
Thank you, Mel. Take the
I really feel sorry for the rest of the presenters.
Yeah. So next time we run a conference, we need to make sure we have lots of tissue boxes. Did anyone have anything they wanted to share or ask questions about?
I typically raise the
It's the best shit. Dead things. And it's funny now, I have clients turn up and bring me skeletons and all sorts of things, and they come in and they're like, I've got something for you, Mel, and I'm like, what is it? And they're like, here's a skull or a bone or a feather, and so it's pretty special. I've created some kind of weird world out there, but it feels good. Yeah.
Oh, just thank you so much, Mel. It's really wonderful. But I think it also just makes me reflect a lot on like the medical model and the ways of diagnosing people. Just don't have any, statistical significance. They don't really actually hold much weight when you look at it in depth. But also, we've only had them for such a short time. Whereas lived experience has been for as long as we have existed.
Yeah.
People have had lived experiences, and so I think it's really wonderful just to listen to someone who's an EAL practitioner, because I'm an EAP practitioner. But I think that your presentation just really helped me to kind of understand a little bit about how that looks different than therapy, but just but there's so many similarities there as well. And just
Yeah, and it's interesting because I felt a lot of pressure after doing my training to become a P, and I signed up to do a diploma of counselling. I'm like, it just doesn't sit right with me, and it was when I sort of started looking in the Gestalt, which took me a couple of years to get to that point where I believed in myself enough that I could do that. But I want to say for anyone that is EAL, the power of that work, like don't undervalue who you are or why you do the work that you do, because it can be just as important, if not more important, sometimes than a P. So yeah, that's my thing, just believe in what you offer to the world. My advice is do lots of extra training, like the amount of PD that I've done that I don't have to do, but I want to because I want to best support my clients as an L. But yeah, thanks. Yeah.
I loved you yesterday, the moment I met you, Mel, and it's got a deeper love today, and the power of lived experience has really resonated with me. And then hit me like a brick shithouse when you said about Dakota, which I've had to only just realise I met that horse.
Yeah.
And that was the moment for me.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a very big turning point for me of, oh wow, like, what I learned about myself over a week, I was like, who would have thought that I would learn that from one horse? But yeah, it's pretty powerful. Yeah, thanks. I see tissues and... My friend said to me, she read my presentation and she said, how is it that you just get this stuff and you make people feel shit without anything? And she said, and if no one feels anything from this, well, there are a whole bunch of rocks. So I would say I don't have any rocks in the room, which is pretty cool.
Thank you, Mel.